I went from being a real estate agent in Miami to a software developer in just 7 months. Getting into tech has improved my life in so many ways. I immediately doubled my income despite moving from the US to Europe. I can work remotely from wherever I want, and I can choose when to work and when to enjoy the tropical island I now live on. This is my unique story of how I learned how to code for free, launched my own tech startup, and became a full-time software developer. Nowadays, it seems like everyone wants to get into tech. You probably tried to learn programming yourself, but gotten stuck at one point. Or you've been discouraged by how seemingly difficult it seems to get a job as a developer now. Well, actually, that latter part is only for junior developers. You see, if you have some work experience and good communication skills, there's still plenty of well-paying remote jobs out there for developers. So getting that first job is the hard part. The best way to land your first developer job is by niching yourself down, which I will go through in this video. But first, why did I change from real estate to software development? Being a real estate agent in Miami was fun in a lot of ways, but I remember clearly it had a strong grip on my life. I couldn't really live it the way I wanted to. A lot of times, I would have showings scheduled for the weekend, and in a fast-paced market like Miami, you really can't afford to reschedule some of these showings. And this made making plans like road trips or traveling extremely difficult since I needed to leave my weekends open in case of showings. During the pandemic, I hadn't seen my family home in Sweden for over 2 years, and I was planning to go home that December, but I realized I couldn't. I had to stay in Miami in case of any showings. You might think I'm exaggerating about how hard it is to take time off from real estate, but I remember clearly my very first real estate deal, a condo in the heart of downtown Miami, I sold on that very Christmas Eve. However, traveling has always been a huge part of my life, and being a foreigner in the US so far away from home, I realized this lifestyle was unsustainable for me. But I was doing pretty well in my career, and it was hard for me to take action to improve my situation. But then everything started changing quickly. I had my employer sponsor me for a work visa, so I could keep working in the US. But for whatever reason, it's still a lottery, even if you get sponsored. Everything hit me all at once when I got the email from Uncle Sam basically saying, "Sorry buddy, you're going home." At first, this was extremely frustrating to me, as I didn't know what to do in my life. To continue doing real estate in Sweden, I would have to go back to university. But I also had built up such a great network in real estate in Miami that would now be worthless to me. I would have to start from scratch and build it again in Sweden. After a while of stressing out, however, I decided to accept things as they were. After all, I was glad that some external factor had made this important life decision for me. I could now focus on creating a life where I could travel whenever I wanted to, see my family when I wanted to, and have a career that is not location dependent. So in my last months in Miami, I said my goodbyes, wrapped up my final deals, and once my visa was up, I took my sister's advice to just travel Latin America and figure things out. This was the best advice I've ever gotten. I traveled to 6 countries and spent half a year having fun and figuring things out. But during this time, I wasn't just chilling on boats in the Caribbean or partying backstage in Colombia. I was learning how to code. You see, there are a lot of things that frustrated me about being a real estate agent. I had to gather a lot of data to produce reports. So a lot of time was spent copying and pasting information from various websites into Excel to generate reports. I wanted to be challenged and actually use my brain at work, not doing these repetitive tasks that could be automated by a robot. So while I was still an agent, I started Googling on how I could automate these tasks. I learned how to web scrape with Python and save the data to an Excel file. This saved me so much time at work, and it was mind-blowing seeing a robot that I made browse the web for me, get the data I wanted, format it nicely, and put it into an Excel file. However, this was sort of a Frankenstein script I had built from copy and pasting code I found online. I didn't really understand how it worked, nor did I have the time to actually learn how to code at this point. This brings us back to my Latin America trip. I had this Python script that saved me countless of hours in my previous job. I had a large network in the Miami real estate space that I needed something to do with or risk losing it, and I had no job or career. I had always wanted to start a business, so I thought, why not take this Python script that saved me so much time and helped me as an agent and turn it into a fully fledged platform for real estate agents to help them with their business, and learn how to code and become a software developer in the process. And this was the birth of my startup, CondoCube, which helps real estate agents buy and sell more condos. I had an idea in my mind of how I wanted the platform to look like. So I spent some time every day on taking this simple Python script to the next step, from turning it into a web app, learning SQL and connecting it to a database, learning front-end design, and of course, being able to take payments with Stripe. When you first learn how to code, it is the hardest in the beginning. But the more obstacles you overcome, the more fun it becomes. And you're able to make software faster, and your rate of learning increases exponentially. I met a lot of people while traveling in Latin America who are making over $100,000 a year as software developers, while still working remotely in places like Colombia and Mexico. They were such an inspiration to me, and they also helped me out. With my newfound passion of learning how to code, I found it really easy to make friends with other people already in the industry. They could tell how passionate and eager I was of learning how to code. And every programmer has been in that position before. So they really helped me understand concepts and implement features on my web app. So I quickly made a friend group of other programmers who were also traveling Latin America. After half a year of traveling, I decided it was time to actually see my family again. At this time, I actually had an early version of CondoCube, and I decided to stop by in Miami on the way home and show my old boss what I had built. They were really impressed and gave me some great feedback, and this really motivated me to keep going. And this is something I wish I did more when building CondoCube. Start showing off as early as possible so people can help you determine what features are absolutely necessary and what features you can ignore to save on development time. Also, just showing people something you're building and having them see you progress gets them very excited. They will cheer you on and help you. And this will also in turn motivate you to keep on going. There's a good quote by the co-founder of LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman, that says, "If you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you probably launched too late." So as you go through your journey of transition into tech, document and share your progress. It will keep you accountable in so many ways, and people will reach out to you to help you succeed. So I finally came back to Sweden, and after catching up with family, I decided to stay. And during this time, I lost focus of CondoCube, since it's a platform that pertains only to Miami real estate, which I was now very far away from geographically. I started looking for software developer jobs in Sweden, and I found a startup in real estate technology that was using a similar stack to what I had used to build CondoCube. When interviewing with this company, I decided to tell them the story of me traveling and building this startup. And I realized I was in a pretty unique position here. As a former real estate agent who is now a software developer who built his own real estate technology platform. I used my sales skills I had learned as a real estate agent to get the salary I wanted, which was double what I was making in Miami. And I eventually got the job. Now, there are two key reasons to why I got this job. The first reason being I had niched myself down. There were a lot of developers applying to the same job. Most of them were probably better at coding than me, but I can almost guarantee that none of them were a better real estate software developer than I was, because I had worked as a real estate agent, I knew the industry well, and I had built a real estate technology startup recently, all by myself. The second reason I stood out in a lot of interview processes, including this one, when the question comes up of, "Oh, tell me about yourself." Most people will say, "Oh, my name is X, I work in Y, in my free time I do Z." Don't do that. This is extremely boring and everyone does it. You see, most people hiring for a coding position don't just want the best coder. They want someone they actually would enjoy working with. No matter how good of a Java developer you might be, if you're just inside on your computer all day and you don't really have any social skills, and you spend your free time on the internet arguing about why Emacs is better than Vim, which by the way, it's not, then spoiler alert, you might actually get rejected for someone with less coding experience, but more sociable and altogether just a more pleasant person to be around in the workplace. This question, "Tell us about yourself," always happens in the beginning of the interview. And it's such a good opportunity to start the interview off with a bang and leave a great first impression. So don't just give them a monotone story of what you're doing, etc. Tell them an actual story. Why are you applying for this job? Why did you decide to break into tech? What were you doing before before you were programming? And what was the catalyst that made you learn programming? Why are you passionate about this? I learned in these interview processes when I was telling them my story of me traveling Latin America and I decided to learn how to code to have more freedom and see my family when I wanted to. People were amazed. They started asking me questions about my adventures unrelated to coding or work. And I just immediately built this social rapport between me and the interviewer, which subconsciously made them wanted to hire me more. And likewise, you're still watching this video because hopefully I've done a great job in telling my story, which in case I have, toss me a like. From the moment I decided to get serious with programming to when I got this well-paying job took 7 months. And I was traveling and having fun while doing so. Fast forward to now, I'm a very niche software developer in the real estate industry. My background as a real estate agent and my now launched startup CondoCube have allowed me to build a strong career in freelance software development. I'm now back in Latin America, working while traveling, working flexible hours, and most importantly, continuing the adventures. I started this channel to document my learnings and pass them on to you, as learning how to code has improved my life in so many ways, from earning more to having location freedom and making new friendships. I hope my story can inspire you to learn how to code as well. I strongly believe the best way to learn how to code is to have a problem that solving which would improve your life greatly. Maybe there are things you can automate at your current job. You can use ChatGPT and Stack Overflow and put together a Frankenstein solution to automate a task. Then you can show it to your boss and tell them how much time you're saving. After that, you can even ask your boss to use some of the work time to improve and keep building the tool to make it better. And just like that, you're a software developer without even having to do a technical interview. Thank you so much for listening to my story, and I'll see you later.